Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is here, everyone. Welcome back to SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Whitney Cordovez done messed up. Clearwater-based Scientologist business owner put up a video on her own Facebook page telling that she had told her employees that they had to read Grant Cardone's book within 1 week or they were fired. Now, guys, I don't know if this actually violates employment law, EEOC law. I don't know, but it sure seems to me that it's at least flirting with it. And even if it's not illegal, man, it sure is a weird way to run a company. This phenomenon of a cult within a cult, of Scientologists putting Grant Cardone up on a pedestal, almost as if Grant Cardone is an additional source of the most workable technology in this sector of the Galactic Federation. An additional new source. Source is what Scientologists call L. Ron Hubbard. And people are saying my microphone's messed up. Oh, good Lord. Thank you, guys. Friends, not plug in their microphone. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for 90 seconds of horrible audio. I really appreciate that, guys. Now I want to do it all over again. Now I want to redo the whole 90 seconds, but I'm not going to. This phenomenon of Scientologists starting to, in a way, worship Grant Cardone. This is worthy of its own commentary. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. First, we're going to watch the video. Then we're going to jump into this in a little more depth because there's other examples from history, from Scientology history, of Scientologists kind of putting themselves up there and out there as an extra reliable source of information. And it's very lucrative to do this within the world of Scientology, but it always ends up biting that person in the butt. And eventually David Miscavige comes down on that person like a ton of bricks for basically making money on the back of Scientologists and orgs, which is what Grant Cardone is doing. All right, so let's see. First, I'm going to show you. This is Whitney Cordovez. She is a Clearwater-based Scientologist married to Aaron Cordovez. These are Scientologists who make a ton of money in the Amazon seller drop shipping world. Amazon selling and reselling is huge business in the Scientology ecosystem. There's like a whole training kind of MLM setup within the Scientology ecosystem about becoming an Amazon reseller. And people sell systems and business models and programs on how you can emulate them to become a successful Amazon reseller. Well, Whitney and her husband, Aaron, are two of the people who've actually succeeded in that regard. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, let me see, I'm going to turn on audio and let's watch this. Oh, come on.
I've ever read.
Okay, so now we got
It's very powerful book. This is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It's very powerful. Be obsessed or be average. It's a mindset. It's the way you operate. It's the way you do things in life. I read this book and my mind was blown. You know, I kind of judged Grant a little. I know he's a great guy, but I was like, gosh, I don't know. I don't know. Then I read the book and I was like, geez, he's a genius. I was like, God, I love him. He's incredible. So I had every single person in my company read the book. And I was like, guys, you have 1 week to read this. And I was okay if they used some of their production time to do so. I said, if you don't read it in a week, you're gone. I'm letting you go. It's your choice. You can read it or not. And my whole intention of having told them that was like, if they're dedicated, are they part of my team or are they not? I want the people on my team that are going to be obsessed about their job, about getting their products out. If they're not, then what are they doing here? The door is there. You can leave. What's the power of a book?
Okay. How much do you value or not value your employees? Where you're going to say, I've read this book by a Scientologist friend of mine, and I love this book so much that if you don't read this book within 7 days, you're out of a job. Now, for employees of hers who know that she's a Scientologist and that Grant Cardone is a Scientologist. Some of them might try to make the argument that she's pushing Scientology onto us and saying if we don't accept this information from this famous Scientologist, that we're gone. Now, I guess in order to make that argument in a court of law, you'd have to make the argument that Grant Cardone's material and his book somehow represents or is Scientology itself. And I don't know if you could make that argument in a court of law. But at the very least, you're signaling, at the very least, she's signaling to her employees, I don't really care about you. I don't really value your work. I only care whether you've read this book, whether you read this book in 7 days. And when I see the cult-like worship, it's like a cult within a cult. When I see the cult-like worship that has popped up in Scientology, oh, I should have worn my 10X hat. Where's my 10X hat? Oh my God, dare I jump up and leave the screen empty? All right, stay tuned, guys. I'm coming back with my 10X hat. Don't go anywhere. Oh, guys, you know what's better than 10X? $11X. No, I like the 10X hat better. Okay. Hold on. Got to get it straight. Yeah. Now I got to get my best Grant Cardone voice. My best Grant Cardone voice. Yeah. You got to be obsessed or be average. Have you seen my jet? My jet burns $800,000 of fuel a year. If you don't make at least $400,000 a year, can you even call yourself a man? That's my best Grant Cardone impression. Okay. This cult within a cult that has popped up. This is eventually going to be Grant Cardone's downfall in the world of Scientology. Have you guys ever heard of David Singer? David Singer is, or I would say was, one of the most famous Scientologists within Scientology. David Singer is a chiropractor. And he went from just being a chiropractor to running one of the biggest, most successful, most lucrative business consulting groups for chiropractors. And this is one of those business consulting groups that recruits people into Scientology. David Singer is personally responsible for the fact that an awful lot of, a ton of chiropractors are Scientologists. A large percentage of Scientologists are chiropractors. It's a strange thing. The root of that is David Singer Enterprises. He offered business consulting services to chiropractors who'd spent a lot of money and a lot of years going to school to be licensed in their trade. And they all became like independent private practice owners, but they didn't really have any training in how to run a business. And it was kind of, you could sort of say, to use the Scientology lingo, their ruin was that they didn't really know how to run a business or organize or hire or train or, deal with employee issues. David Singer basically took all the management policies in Scientology and kind of repurposed them into management training courses that he could sell to chiropractors. And then once the chiropractors signed up with him for his business management services, eventually that turned into getting these chiropractors into Scientology. The exact same consulting services and companies have popped up for dentists. So many dentists are Scientologists, or so many Scientologists are dentists, either way. Physical therapists, veterinarians, financial planners. I'm mentioning David Singer because eventually David Miscavige got very envious and jealous of all the money David Singer was making. And the way these business consulting companies work is they have to pay Scientology a royalty on the Scientology materials that they license from Scientology to sell in their business consulting services, but they don't have to pay a royalty on materials that are original. So if David Singer himself wrote a book and sold that book to his clients, he doesn't have to pay Scientology a royalty on that. If he writes a book that is an intentional repackaging of Scientology, and it says on the bottom, inspired by or based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard, and he gets a permission from the mother church to license that material, and he sells that book, he has to pay like a 10 or 15% royalty fee. David Miscavige, when he decided David Singer was making too much money, said, send in the investigators into Singer's company and find out how he's screwing us. And they went into the company and they looked at all of the material that David Singer had personally wrote and not credited L. Ron Hubbard with and not licensed from Scientology. And they said, how dare you steal money out of the pockets of L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology by repackaging Scientology info into this book and pretending like it's your info? And David Singer was like, what are you talking about? This is a book I put together just from my own expertise of years of running chiropractic businesses. All this other stuff is the L. Ron Hubbard material. This is my material. And David Singer was basically told, it's not possible for you to have your own material. You couldn't possibly have had an original thought on this subject because all of your thoughts and all of your experience is based on your experience of reading, learning, and applying L. Ron Hubbard technology. So even if you're writing about your own experience, your experience is informed by your study of and your application of L. Ron Hubbard tech. And therefore, by not crediting L. Ron Hubbard with this material, by not saying this is based on the work of L. Ron Hubbard, by not saying this is inspired by the work of L. Ron Hubbard, you are stealing, and you're stealing from us. And David Miscavige came down on David Singer like a ton of bricks. He assessed him for millions of dollars of past royalty payments. He basically made David Singer the lowest scum on the lowest part of the bilge of a ship and made it impossible for him to ever make up the damage that David Miscavige was saying Singer had done to Scientology by taking all of this credit. This is the path that Grant Cardone is going down. The fact, well, a Scientologist is not supposed to go to another Scientologist for knowledge or expertise or guidance on how to do anything in an organization or a business. They're supposed to go to L. Ron Hubbard. They're supposed to go to Scientology courses. They're supposed to go to the policy volumes. They're not supposed to go to another Scientologist for tips on how to sell. They're supposed to do the professional registration course in Scientology. They're supposed to read Big League Sales. They're supposed to read the material that L. Ron Hubbard endorsed and sanctioned. Grant Cardone has set himself up as an authority for even Scientologists to turn to. Now you might go, well, David Miscavige must know this is going on. This is all being done under the nose of David Miscavige. He must have Miscavige's blessing. You know who else thought they had Miscavige's blessing? David Singer. If Cardone has Miscavige's blessing, all he has it for is for now. The day is going to come where Miscavige goes, what is up with this Cardone fool? Why are so many Scientologists going to Grant Cardone seminars? Why are so many Scientologists referring to Grant Cardone's books? Grant Cardone must be making an awful lot of money off of the backs of Scientologists and Scientology organizations. Send in the investigators and find his crimes. So this book that, what's this woman's name again? This book that Whitney Cordovez is talking about, Be Obsessed or Be Average? Well, here's the question I have. Hey, Grant Cardone, does your book say based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard? Is your book licensed by the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises or licensed by L. Ron Hubbard Library? No matter whether the answer is yes or no, we sort of have a problem. If the answer is no, then you better hope Scientologists stop referring people to your book instead of to L. Ron Hubbard's materials. And if your answer is yes, then the world needs to know every time they buy your book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, 10 or 15% of the money you get from that book is going straight into the pockets of Scientology, the multi-billion-dollar international human trafficking cult. Either way, it's a bad answer. Scientologists even, I heard recently, Scientologists are even walking around with their little rubber bracelets that Cardone sells called "Don't Be a Little Bitch." When you have a cult of personality inside a cult of personality, you have a ticking time bomb. And I'll tell you what, I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. And when that bomb explodes, I'll be documenting that explosion every step of the way. Let's see. There's something else that I wanted to comment on here. And that has to do with Grant Cardone's. It's not possible to separate out Grant Cardone from Scientology. Every part of Grant Cardone's business shtick is inextricably linked to Scientology, whether it's obvious to an outsider or not. And I'm amazed every time I do a video about Grant Cardone, how many people are hearing for the first time, I didn't know Grant Cardone is a Scientologist. Grant Cardone is as high level of a Scientologist as Tom Cruise. Grant Cardone has also donated approximately $35 or so million to Scientology. Guys, the reason I do Grant Cardone videos is because he is one of the #1 recruiters and one of the #1 financiers of the international human trafficking cult known as Scientology. And so I'm here to expose that fact, and just exposing his business fraud for me is just kind of window dressing and icing on the cake. The reason I talk about Grant Cardone is because of his support and enabling of the human trafficking cult of Scientology. And so recently, Grant Cardone sued business legend John Legere, the guy who took over as CEO of T-Mobile and made T-Mobile relevant. The guy, John Legere, is the T-Mobile CEO who starred in all of the T-Mobile commercials with the pink branding and the T-shirts, and that's who John Legere is. Well, John Legere called out Grant Cardone for being a fraud. In his opinion, John Legere, in a Clubhouse chat a year or two ago, called Grant Cardone out hardcore for being a fraud, and also for his support of Scientology. And Grant Cardone recently sued John Legere for $100 million for the reputational damage Grant Cardone suffered because John Legere called Grant Cardone a fraud in a private Clubhouse chat with maybe a couple hundred people in it. Why am I bringing this up? Because the fact is, Grant Cardone is a fraud. He's a fraud. He's a con man. He's a grifter. He's a liar, and he's a supporter of a human trafficking cult. And so many of you have heard me say on this channel that I enjoy, because because Scientology has declared me a suppressive person, I enjoy a certain level of protection from Grant Cardone's harassment in that he can't really sue me. I can pretty much say whatever I want about Grant Cardone, and he can't sue me. Why is that? Well, there's no policy in Scientology saying that a Scientologist can't sue a former Scientologist or someone who's been declared a suppressive person. But the fact is, the social media day and age that we live in, one thing that is a high crime for a Scientologist to do is to in any way enable or help or provide assistance or raise the profile of someone who's considered a suppressive person. And because of the nature of social media, if Grant Cardone were to sue me, it would automatically raise my profile. The lawsuit would be reported all over the place. People would have to look me up or look up my channel, and they'd find all the videos that I do every day for the last couple of years exposing the crimes and the fraud and abuse of the human trafficking cult that we know as Scientology. For that reason, Grant Cardone's hands are tied. Well, I am going to try to extend that umbrella of protection to the degree that I can to John Legere. Grant Cardone is suing John Legere to try and make other people more afraid of calling him out for being a fraudster, a con man, a liar, a grifter, and a supporter of a human trafficking cult. So, Grant, here's what I want you to know. Consider this video my offer to John Legere and his legal team to voluntarily sit for as many depositions as possible, to write up in painful detail as many affidavits as possible, detailing precisely how your support of Scientology, which is itself of fraud, how your support of Scientology and all your other fraudulent business practices does in fact make you a fraud. But I'm going to specialize, I'm going to emphasize all of the Scientology aspects of the fraud. And all of that's going to be entered into the legal record. And then I'm going to do videos about it. And I'm going to sit for depositions, and I'm going to have those depositions videoed. And then I'm going to publish the videos. Think back, I don't know, Grant, if you're familiar with this, but remember when Michael Rappaport sued Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports? Because Dave or Barstool Sports printed a T-shirt of Michael Rappaport looking like a clown with a herpes sore on his mouth. Michael Rappaport was portrayed as a herpes clown, and Michael didn't like this, and in a fit of emotional rage, sued Dave Portnoy. And Dave Portnoy sat for a deposition on this subject, videoed the deposition, and leaked it. And it was absolutely humiliating for Michael Rappaport. That's what we're going to do, Grant. In this analogy, you're the herpes clown. Okay. So I love I love that you chose to sue a guy who's worth many hundreds of millions of dollars, is much closer to being a billionaire than you'll ever be. By the way, Grant Cardone might be the internet's most famous Scientologist. He's also the internet's most famous fake billionaire. So you've sued this guy. What a misstep. I mean, were you drunk when you filed this lawsuit? Like, I know you have a drinking problem. Were you drinking when you filed this lawsuit? Because this is going to backfire you in the biggest way. It's going to backfire on you. It's going to backfire on Scientology. I'm going to make an absolute circus out of it. And I'm here for it. Okay. So maybe I should start calling you Grant Cardone, the herpes clown. Grant Cardone, the herpes clown, fake billionaire, fraudster, grifter, liar, and number one financier and recruiter of the human trafficking cult known as Scientology. Let's do this, Grant. Or should I say herpes clown? By the way, if any of you awesome folks out there in the SP Nation, if you look up Dave Portnoy, Michael Rappaport, herpes clown, and you see the T-shirt that Barstool Sports had printed up about Michael Rappaport, if any of you want to duplicate that image with Grant Cardone's face, turning him into the herpes clown, I'll sell T-shirts of Grant Cardone, the herpes clown. We'll do this. We'll jump in both feet. We'll do this. Oh, Grant Cardone is going to regret the day he chose to sue John Leisure. All right, let's see. Is there anything else I want to discuss on this point? I don't think so. Declared Dave loves suppressive. Sherry, congratulations on your 1 month channel membership. Love the straight build 10X hat. Just need a little cigar burning fake money and you're all set. Indeed. Yeah, if I was in a room where I could smoke, I'd actually light up a cigar. All right, guys, that's it for now. Stay tuned. So much more to come later today. So much more to come later this week. Lots of exciting stuff happening. Thank you to everybody who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.